Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Commentary is Magic's stream on tonight, December 10th, 2017. I am, as always, Grandpa's.
Emperor Bugle.
Big Cheese.
And Arcat.
And we are here for a little bit of musical fun this evening. Arcat will be serenading us for the next 90 minutes. Go.
You didn't tell me to get the kazoo ready.
Memories.
If you wanted that, you should have let me get a kazoo, at least.
All right. We'll take a rain check on the
right.
performance.
Fine. I don't even have a kazoo. This is terrible.
I'm sure we could find a YouTube clip of a kazoo pretty easily.
Oh, wait, hold on. I have a Rock Band keyboard. I can play like
Heart and Soul.
No.
Freebird.
Freebird.
Security. Guy in the front.
All right. No, tonight we are going to have a bit of fun, though. It may be card game related, but that doesn't mean there isn't a lot of music that's present across these decks here. That's right, it is our first Deck Discourse episode featuring core format decks, and I am excited.
Are you nervous-sided?
I am not nervous-sided because we've put these things through the ringer in most of their
Quite
cases.
a few games.
And we know what to expect. And soon you all will as well. And it's going to be a lot of fun. Not every deck we're covering tonight is going to be core format. We're actually going to be covering the first two as core, starting with Bugle's creation, More Than One Small Thing, and then moving on to my own, which is Moonlight Sonata. And then following Moonlight Sonata, we will have the revised version of a classic, in my opinion, Mosh Pit from our very own Arcat. And we'll all be providing commentary and sharing our thoughts on these.
See, except you thought it was just like stupid memes until you figured out what the origin was.
I did, and then I actually have a great respect for the deck. It's still a meme deck, but I have respect for it now.
I mean,
not enough.
You will dance with Finky.
Teamwork makes the meme work.
I like this phrase. This is a good phrase. Before we dive into those, just a couple quick announcements on some upcoming events, on upcoming activities from Commentary is Magic. As some of you who are on the subreddit may have seen, we are actually very excited to be launching a repeating tri-weekly tournament, online tournament, for the core format starting in January. We will have more specific information on signups for these events and how information is to be recorded, but basically, it's a great chance for the meta to be developed and shared across time zones, across oceans, if need be. Anyone can participate, and we are allowing proxies for these tournaments. So even if you haven't been able to get your hands on every card you'd like to play with, it's a great chance to still try out some of your favorite deck lists and see how they'd hold up in the national or global meta overall.
Yeah, it will. It should be interesting. This is a pretty unexplored meta. I mean, sure, a lot of our Harmony decks have been mostly core cards, but never only core cards. Well, mostly never only core cards.
Losing access to some of these cards is pretty painful, but...
Yeah, it changes things.
It does. It's painful until you find something else that you like to run.
Sure.
Additionally, we're going to be trying something a little bit new with our deck discourses moving forward, and we're starting with this one. In the past, we've generally done deck discourse featuring two decks that have had some element in common or maybe not at all. But since core format is kind of starved for meta lists at the moment, we're going to be sharing 3 deck lists every time we do deck discourse for core moving forward. And since combo, to the best of most of our knowledge, currently doesn't exist in core, and farming is also more limited, every single time we do a deck discourse for core format, we'll feature 1 aggro list, 1 control list, and then a wild card. Ara, what can we expect from the wild card?
Memes.
Okay.
Dances with Finky.
Sure. What else can we expect from the wild card list, Cheese?
Combo.
I mean, sure. If we find it.
Combo memes.
Combo memes. It could be
Next.
combo, it could be farming, it could be meme decks, it could be decks outside of the core format, just something to kind of mix things up. But since aggro and control will dominate much of the meta of core, at least at the beginning, we'll feature a list for each of those in each of our deck discourse episodes.
But what about mid range and tempo?
We don't use the M word.
We don't use the T word either.
I tried to use the T word. I got,
Terrific.
I got my wrists verbally slapped.
Bad wrists. Bad
Exactly.
wrists.
We also don't use the F word or the B word.
Fantabulistic.
Farming?
Farming.
No. Shh.
Family.
I would ask chat to guess the words that Ara is referring to, but I'd rather not and stay family friendly.
No.
So would you like to just tell us, Ara?
No,
No, because we don't
Because-
discuss it.
because we don't discuss that.
Sure. I guess I walked into that one. Food. Sure. Food. No food decks. Bluna.
Food fights.
Bluna.
No. Anyway.
All right. Well, I think that's enough setup. Are we ready to dive into the first of our musical decks here?
See, you said you don't want them to guess, and now they're just guessing. So
It's reverse psychology, Bugle. Of course I wanted them to guess. I just had to make sure to mention that it was going to be family friendly.
So I think our first performer is going to be Princess Skystar.
Skystar, yeah, she sings songs.
And
About songs about
her-
shells and arias about shells and a cappella vocal groups about shells.
Full orchestra symphonies about shells, by shells, for shells.
Excuse me, do you have a moment to talk about seashells?
Take it away, Bugle.
So, Yellow has been underperforming for a long time now. With the exception of Zipperwill, a purple-white deck that just happened to have its namesake in Yellow, we have not seen a Tier 1 deck using Yellow since Canterlot Knights. That is a long time ago. And because of this, Yellow has been the butt of many a joke about how it is not and never will be viable again. Well, all that is about to change. More than one small thing may not use a Yellow main. Don't let that fool you. It takes Yellow's strengths and dials them up to 11. Need to make lots of friends? We can do that. Troublemakers in the way? Not a problem. Opponent has more resources than you can shake a stick at, or even a resource stick? So let's just get rid of them all. Oh, and who can forget Celestia Dayshift? Not that pink is a slouch either, providing removal, its own ability make lots of friends, one of the nastiest 1-2 punches in core. Though it needs a little help from orange to do that last thing. Let's look at the key cards. First and foremost, of course, is the main, Princess Skystar. Not only does she guarantee you a point turn 1, but she can threaten a turn 2 or even a turn 1 DFO, which can definitely mess with the opponent's opening. In addition to this, she gives you 2 pink friends, which can be used either to power up your Changeling citizens, or in one of the many ways you have to retire your own friends for benefits. Next is Next is Dayshift. This card gives you a constant presence at problems, so long as face-offs are happening, even if you don't start them. Also, it's free to move dilemmas. It's a free move to dilemmas or a problem replaced with things in place. Whether you're moving a massive Changeling citizen, Skystar holding a giant stick, or even just a 3-power friend, you're bound to get some serious value out of this. And how about that removal? Sure, belly flop may be the only dismissal, but that's fine, as it means our opponent can't rely on Appaloosa to save their friends. We've got DPOSs, in addition to a bajillion retire outlets, music in the treetops to make them retire 1 or 2 friends with little cost to us, Pinky and Skystar to return a friend to hand and give us 3 surprise power, and main 6 to take their entire board with 5 ways to retire it all. And of course, even Fluttershy can make their board emptier if they have small friends. But friends aren't the only thing this deck is good at removing. This deck is packing 5 solid resource removal, all of which is useful even if the opponent isn't running resources. Oh, and 8, count them, 8 ways around Troublemakers. And Sneaky Snake is even repeatable. Do not underestimate this. And while those pesky Changeling Mimics can be annoying, you'll almost always have a way to get past them, regardless of what they call. Now, as you might have noticed, it's not hard to make a lot of friends with this deck, so sometimes you wind up with more than you need. As such, the last key card we need to talk about is, of course, the one orange card in the deck, Party Hard. When played at the right time, this card is simply devastating. Not only do you get to refill your hand for 1 AT, you can discard the majority of, or perhaps all of, the opponent's hand as well. And when paired with main 6, well, it's not easy to come back from a situation where you have no board and no hand, while your opponent has both. Admittedly, you only have 5 ways to fix into orange. That's usually enough. Oh, and don't forget, if your opponent is playing orange, you can use their friends to meet your wreck. So, more than one small thing packs one not so small wallop. May not be as fast as your blue aggro decks, but it's definitely no slouch at confronting problems despite that. Plus, it has the tools necessary to bypass most hurdles that control will throw your way, and that is invaluable. Try it out, see for yourself.
So, I'm gonna need a lot of seashells, is what you're saying?
Seashells. Well, you only need 2. You'll need 5 earth ponies and at least 3 critters.
But how many snacks do I need?
Just 2. And they have to be sneaky.
They're not actual snakes.
They're snakes. It's like sneaky snack.
Discard.
I still remember the first game I played against you with this list, Bugle. And it completely threw me for a loop in terms of what it was actually capable of doing.
It's tricky.
Like you said at the beginning, people have counted yellow out for so long. And I was not counting yellow out. I was running a partial yellow deck. And it's just shocking to see removal that gets around many of the protection elements we have for it, like Appaloosa, be used so efficiently, and also in such horrifying manner as the main 6+ Party Hard, which I still have nightmares about.
That's some party they're planning. Yeah, you'll notice there are a lot of 2-ofs in this deck. There are, we've got 2 sticks, 2 Pinky and Twilights, 2 main 6, and so on and so forth. And it works, surprisingly. Like, just having the flexibility. It's got a lot of 3-ofs as well. I believe it has 9 of each, which is an amusing coincidence. But yeah, it works. One thing I guess I didn't mention before that's definitely worth noting. Our dilemma choice, the pink dilemma. You might be surprised at that when yellow has good dilemmas, like 2 really good dilemmas, the new one we just got, and of course Industrial Revolution, and they cost 1 and this costs 2, and yet I like this one better. 5 bodies at a problem instead of at home matters a lot.
Especially when you've got ways to use those bodies as ammunition.
Yeah.
Yeah, Troublemakers are absolutely no threat to this deck whatsoever. And Pinkie Pie and Princess Skystar was probably the inspiration for me to start looking at large, hasty friends in a slightly different light.
We'll see that soon.
I hope.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen that before, with Spitfire.
Sure. We have seen that, but Spitfire was commonly run as a removal piece or a worst-case scenario, a DFO with Bluna in the mid-game when you could actually afford that AT. It wasn't used just as a basic tempo play. It was I'm going to do big things with this card, or I absolutely have to deal with this opposing friend. Pinkie Pie and Skystar can obviously still do that, but just having that 3-power Hasty can be really nice, and then getting extra value off of bouncing an opposing friend to its owner's hand, also quite nice.
Yeah, and then if you have Celestia, now you're moving 3-power friends instead of your 2-power friends as well. Yeah, so let's talk about Desert Road for a moment.
I'm sure we'll be talking about that card a lot over the course of this meta.
Desert Road, you'll notice a lot of cards in this deck are Enter's Play abilities. Or even if not, they all of the friends have rather nice abilities, right? And you can't Brian a Desert Road, not easily, right?
Not in the same turn, right?
Yes. So that's why I added the yellow song, the mono yellow song. Friends are always there, and I found that card to just be good.
It's a good card.
I've used all 3 modes.
What does it even do?
Oh, it can dismiss a resource. It can gain control of an opposing troublemaker until the end of the turn, or it can
not good for epics, but good for non-epics.
Yeah.
Right. And it can put 3 critter friends into play
for 2 AT and 5 flip power. Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
So Godot says the removal is mainly belly flop and music. No, there's a surprising amount of removal in this deck. We've got Frighten with the stick, we've got Bounce with Pinkie and Skystar, and there are a lot of really good targets to bounce nowadays, and we're about to see some of those.
Yes, we are.
We've got take all of their friends and feed them to Discord or Party Hard. We've got just take one of their cards and use Music in the Treetops or Sneaky Snake or Belly Flop or Party Hard or whatever. I guess that's it, but that's still a lot of ways. Or Belly Flop, right? And Cardboard Box's removal for a large main.
Yeah, it's one of the only tools in here that will deal with epics efficiently. I think we each talked about this, that these kind of slower speed aggro decks, not that it's a slow deck, but slower than blitz style, have a tendency to run into a few issues with farming in the meta. But because farming is likely taking some significant hits in core, it's probably okay.
Yeah, like Applejack's still a good main in core. Don't get me wrong, but
she is.
I don't think she's a farmer.
I agree with you.
And we're also going to see a lot of sticks, and Cardboard Box can help.
How do you feel about sticks, Art?
I like sticks.
They go in almost everything.
Everything but combo. And some control.
They might even go in combo. We don't have a list to say they don't yet.
Well, again, they do go in combo. It's just not core legal.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. So staff, speaking of stick, in this deck, I added stick. Skystar's not doing much, right? Right. She's just a nice 3-power main, right?
I mean, having a 3-power main body.
That's good.
It's impactful, yeah.
But she's not doing a whole lot, right? So you give her the stick, and now she can start doing stuff. And with Celestia, she can confront every problem in that deck by herself, except for Mob Mentality.
Yep. And even then, she can confront Mob Mentality if you're willing to spend an extra AT on Singing Barrel.
Sure.
Yep. This is actually significant. If we are talking aggro decks in the current meta and aggro decks that are primarily going for double problem face-offs that are going to be relying on high bonus problems, 6 is the magic number, and a lot of that is due to stick.
Yes.
A lot of that is due to staff.
Yeah.
Even though we have cards at 7 that are excellent problems, 8-card pileup is by no means a bad problem.
But it's not 6.
But it's not 6, and that means you can't do it with just a main and your staff.
Well, not a main not named Applejack.
Yeah.
Sure. Not a main not named Applejack.
This does change the rule a bit. How previously it was, you basically in aggro have to be running the 2/2 problems because you want to be able to confront with just 2 characters anywhere. This kind of saves us from losing all the 2/2 problems.
Yeah. And, like, Pink has some pretty good problems. Saving AT, drawing cards. Like, these are good.
Pink isn't bad, yellow isn't bad, blue also is
Yeah.
not bad. So if Hawkwings even continues to exist in this meta, it will likely be on the back of Staff of Sikonis.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And the other way we have to get 6, of course, is Changeling Citizens, who is also one of our ways to get orange. Like, I have played Changeling Citizens for yellow, for orange, and sometimes for pink, because sometimes you just play it to your own problem. And you just want it to be big.
I mean, sure, 2 AT to play it to It's a Secret to Every Pony and just confront that alone.
Yeah. Speaking of confronts, sometimes this deck just wants to single confront. It prefers DFOing, but it's okay to just single confront.
Sure.
You know,
especially with 3 Bunyips, yeah.
Yeah.
Get
now
all 3 Bunyips at the very beginning, and
I mean, yeah, you can do that if you're Leo and you don't get anything else, but you get 3 Bunyips and you make your opponent start sweating bullets, which may or may not have happened less than 24 hours ago. Now, there is one thing that we should probably talk about here. We've talked about it in the card reviews before, and I'm sure we'll be talking about it in every future deck using Skystar. Whoever wants to chime in on this, go ahead. Let's talk about
Chicken?
Let's talk about Skystar Chicken.
Yes, Skystar Chicken. So, this problem deck, you might notice there are 3 different starting problems. Ignore Pearl Heist, you're not using that as your starting problem. You are going to either use Searching High and Low or Concerning Cutie Mark.
But how do I know?
How do you know? Well,
is your opponent running Skystar?
Sometimes it's easy. If the opponent is running Tempest or Applejack, or not a non-confront to flip main, you're going to run Consuming Cutie Mark. This gives you the threat of a DFO because the 3 matches Skystar, and then you want to put the other ones on their Trading Traditions or their own Consuming Cutie Mark.
The Seashells.
With Seashells, yes. If they're playing a confront to flip main, like Scootaloo or Octavia, maybe they're going to run Searching High and Low. And if you win the die flip, or coin roll, obviously.
Yes, the coin roll.
Yes,
coin
roll.
That's a DFO. Turn
1.
Before they have gained action tokens.
And how many cards does it cost you to do that?
0.
Correct. Skystar Chicken is a hilarious game.
Negative 2 cards. You have materialized 2 cards onto the board.
Confront problems with seashells and start face-offs with seashells and
dismissing my opponent's friends with seashells.
Wrecking your opponent's flip chance with seashells.
Deny my opponent Trading Traditions entry with seashells.
There's so many things you can do with shells.
Yeah.
Goto, the only reason Scootaloo wouldn't run Concerning Cutie Mark, since obviously she can confront that with either Lyra or the Rainbow Dash Loyal Pony, is because Scootaloo might be including 3 copies of Gummy in her deck just as the full 8 to be able to confront on turn 1.
Yeah.
You mean the full 9?
Sorry, full
8
9.
or 9.
8 or 9.
Yeah.
I run 2 Lyras, because much like you, I have doubts. My doubts may not be founded, yours are.
44 friends, 1 non-friend. No!
Now, if we can talk with a madman here for just one moment. Ara, when I am playing Skystar, what problem should I always be running, especially if my opponent is playing Skystar?
You obviously open with Searching High and Low. Never don't play Skystar Chicken.
Never don't play Skystar Chicken.
Louis.
All right.
No, because I'm
in
I'm
general,
a madman.
though, if your opponent is Skystar, You start with Concerning Cutie Mark.
Concerning Cutie Mark, yes.
Probably. At least force them to go turn 2 DFO.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else we'd like to add to More Than One Small Thing?
No, I think that's about it. I think we covered just about everything. Oh, fun fact: you can use bunyips to confront bunyip plus sneaky snake surprise points. It's like, but there were troublemakers, yeah, and I still scored 2 points. What's the problem?
You seem mad.
He seems amused. It seems like somebody else at some point in the past was mad.
Oh, actually, speaking of sneaky snake, very relevant. And I've done this. You can use him multiple times in the same turn for different problems. You have to move him each time, of course, but that can be relevant. Just going, let's ignore this grubber and then move her here, and we'll ignore this grubber, and hey, look, I'm DFOing.
Rail Ice asks, why not try to fit Applejack and Fluttershy into the deck if you're already going for orange? And I'm assuming the answer to this is Day Shift is already carrying enough weight there.
Yep. Day Shift does it on her own. Plus, we actually have enough things that it isn't worth it, and they don't turn on Party Hard by themselves.
Yeah, because it's just one.
Yep.
Yeah.
You need to get one more. Good question, though.
Yes, yeah. It is something I considered, and then I went, wait, there's an event that's very scary.
Yes.
All right.
All right.
So on to our next performer, Fizzle Pop Berry Twist.
You said the words.
That's the F word in the.
Oh, wow.
I get it now. Okay. Well played, Aura. Well
Said
played.
the F word and the B word.
The F word and the B word, yes.
What about Thorax?
Okay.
All right. So we are now moving into Moonlight Sonata.
Control territory.
That is one word for it. Moonlight Sonata is a conglomeration of different deck ideas and playstyles that have sprung up from one set release to another, all wrapped up in a neat little package with a name that couldn't be more fitting. The deck runs a full playset of Luna, songs play a major role, and it's almost painfully slow. So the name just sticks. Breaking the mold from the reactive control decks of the last year, Moonlight Sonata actually runs absolutely no immediate speed events, with the only impactful ability at immediate speed being Sweetie Belle. So, if this is a control deck and we're not able to respond to our opponent's plays and threats as soon as they appear, what is our game plan? At its core, Moonlight Sonata actually plays more like a combo deck than a control deck, or it's at least closer to Tantabuse than Vinyl's Bag of Tricks. And I know I just said the T word. Don't worry. Or maybe worry. The win condition of the deck, win condition in quotes, comes from depriving your opponent of most of their resources, whether that be cards in play, in hand, or in deck. With large power friends like Luna and Spike, it's true that this deck is more than capable of confronting even the highest power problems it runs. But by the time you would single confront for the 15th turn in a row, your opponent is likely to have been out of options for several turns already. This is due primarily to Spike, Master of Ceremonies, and his synergies with several of the songs included here, most notably Heartstrong as Horses and The Spectacle. Since each of these events are capable of bringing the other, or a duplicate copy of themselves, back from the discard pile to hand, using them to disrupt your opponent's board and hand doesn't actually lose you any card advantage. You'll always end up with an event capable of bringing back another on the following turn as long as you choose to select it and you have a Spike in play. Additionally, I'm the friend that you need, and Sweetie Belle can rapidly accelerate the mill clock as you remove large swaths of cards from your opponent's deck. Though Sweetie might start off being used judiciously to deny your opponent key cards, eventually you're just using her to burn the top two, and possibly even using Luna's Future to get double value out of her in a single turn cycle. To help shore up the deck's somewhat sluggish start, Princess Luna is also included, both as a method of repeatable soft removal for high-impact opposing friends, and a nasty tax on opposing movement, delaying most aggro decks by multiple turns and buying you time to get Spike in play and protected. Both Spike and Luna can be cheated into play through redeeming qualities, but Orchard Blossom can, in many cases, be just as valuable, since milling a copy of Spectacle or Heart's Strongest Horses while you have only a single copy in hand is effectively like drawing it once Spike comes out. To defend these control all-stars, as well as some of our other high-power, low-cost entry like Prim, Hemline, and Klugetown Citizens, a pair of Appaloosa and Desert Road are included to protect your friends from opposing removal and neuter opposing friends packing powerful abilities, at least until Luna can scare them or one of the many songs can find more permanent methods of removal. Tempest's advantage in the early game is also helpful, since Grubber can try to deny your opponent entry, while Changeling Mimics can tax opposing control decks so heavily they can't get online fast enough. All that being said, there are still weaknesses, some of them obvious. Since cards in the discard pile are incredibly important to us, Magical Misfire is a serious threat, though Destiny Dream being gone in core is certainly welcome. Additionally, without immediate speed reactions, explosive turns from the opponent can be difficult to answer and all but impossible to interrupt, so recovering in a timely manner, especially with a 35-minute clock ticking, might be challenging. Finally, though the deck does include a single copy of Starlight Glimmer Enforced Equality to hose farming decks, it doesn't have many other answers to opposing epic troublemakers, since the Spectacle can only double your own troublemaker's power, and Luna's Future is better saved for removal. That being said, resource removal. That being said, no deck enjoys having its hand and deck torn completely asunder, so even this deck's worst matchups have much to fear from the Musical Dragon and Princess of the Night.
Discarding hands seems the soup du jour. Of core, anyway.
It's like discard all of a sudden got really strong.
5 cards is kind of a lot of cards.
5 cards is kind of a lot of cards, and then potentially also removing a card from their hand and banishing a friend on the board.
Yeah.
It does seem like this deck would take a while to get online. As Blue Fairy is mentioning, though, it is faster. It's deceptively faster than it might first appear because it's running 6 methods of AT generation.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Factory Jack and Paper Twilight are still good.
And Sweetie Belle is like fake meticulous as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, you get a Sweetie Belle down early and your opponent isn't necessarily in a position where they're going to be messing with you. You probably just Sweetie Belle yourself and look for key pieces. After you get your key pieces online, at that point you start using Sweetie Belle carefully to deny your opponent key cards and let them keep trash. And then eventually, once you get Spike online and your opponent's hand is empty, Sweetie Belle is just a clock.
Yeah, like how I've noticed this deck being played is you put a troublemaker into play turn 1, and then you kind of just ignore the opponent for a little bit.
Yeah.
You go, oh, you're confronting problems. Yeah, sure, whatever.
I mean, if your opponent is going to the trouble of confronting problems for you and giving you more AT every turn, great. Let them do it. As long as they're not DFOing before we get our, color rec online from Trading Traditions. And to answer Rayler's question, you almost always choose orange because drawing into a factory organizer, even if you don't have one in your opening hand, is like an auto drop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, you've got the 3 Prim Hemlines already for white.
Exactly. Now, there's a few cards in here that could be messed with. It really just depends on your local meta and what you end up going up against. Friend That You Need is so good that it started out as 1 copy, and it's currently at 2, and there's a lot of consideration to just drop It's Gonna Work and run a 3rd copy of it as well.
I kind of want to.
That does mean no recursion of trollmakers, though. Just finding new ones.
And that's the only reason it hasn't currently been done. There are other cards as well. If you're looking for something that can hose opposing epics a little bit better, Alicorn Amulet is in these colors and does a great job of doing that, although you don't have a lot of ways to get that back outside of using one of your Heart's Strongest Horses.
Yeah.
And there's even considerations to include a copy of Rainbow Dash on even ground, since you've got a bunch of AT generators, and the only thing you're not currently taking away from your opponent is their action tokens.
I think if you do that, though, you have to change the speeches into barrels.
Probably so. So there are small tweaks that can be made, but overall, the core engine here is very, very solid. Luna might seem like she's not that impactful when all she's doing is frightening a friend, but the key is that's not all she's doing. Don't forget about the movement tax.
Yeah, that tax is crazy.
Celestia is scowling at her little sister right now.
Yeah, Luna's got a big grin on her face, and she knows it. And Spike and Luna are each cards that we've said multiple times over the course of the set review, and we'll say it again. If one of those cards hits the field and you do not answer it in a turn, you are going to have a bad time. Those are cards that demand immediate answers.
Yeah, so Luna's tax applies to all movement, not just the main phase move action. So it would hit the end of turn thing.
It doesn't matter why it moves. If you don't pay an action token per each thing moved, it doesn't move.
And interestingly, I think it also affects Aoizodal's movement because of the way it's worded.
Yes. So
that's
you can
fine.
actually just go, oh, I'll just not pay one. Too bad.
Because I don't have the AT.
That's funny.
Well, no, even if you do have the AT.
No, it's not a choice.
Its opponents can't move characters. So if they lose the face-off, they're still there at Aoizodal. Unless they pay one action token.
Yeah, unless they pay one. Yeah, it is a choice because Luna's tax is a choice.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Luna's tax is not worded as when an opponent moves a character, they must pay one AT if able. It gives them an out. So your opponent says, I spend 2 AT to move, and you ask them, would you like to spend 3 AT to move, or would you rather not move at all and get your 2 AT back? One of the craziest plays that you can see at the opening here that actually just comes out of nowhere is getting yourself up to 6 AT, dropping a Cluj Town Citizens, discarding a Princess Luna to Cluj Town Citizens, and then immediately playing Redeeming Qualities.
It's amazing.
Yep.
It's great. That being said, if you are up against a deck like More Than One Small Thing, or other decks running single target removal, you might want to be very careful and make sure you're not dropping a lot of these big threats until Appaloosa's in play, or make sure you have backups.
Yeah, because it's like, oh, hey, you just spent a lot of AT to put that Luna in play. It sure would be a shame if she was back in your hand when you don't have the wreck for her.
Luna does not finish the sentence, hello every pony, before she eats a pumpkin.
Or just Pinky and Skystar, just sending her back home.
Yep. I will discard Luna to Cluj Town Citizens so I can Redeeming Qualities her and she's gone.
Back in my hand. What just happened?
And there's a pumpkin.
Yep. That being said, it is absolutely ridiculous once Spike gets online. Luna's great. Luna is fantastic. Spike's synergy with these songs is the all-star of this deck and the reason that it works. And the reason that I guarantee that people are going to be sitting there against this deck with no cards in hand and no cards in deck and very few cards in play.
And the cards in play won't last long.
No, they will not. For anyone who played against Pie Eating Contest, the feeling is quite similar, but dragged out over multiple turns to eke out every ounce of anguish possible. That's not really why. It just doesn't have a faster win condition.
So you're saying this is Pie Eating Contest meets Tantabuse?
Well, Pie Eating Contest is a one-turn kill win condition. But
yeah,
yes,
so the meeting can't abuse over multiple turns. Yeah.
What this is saltfarm.deck.
Combo will never die.
That being said,
but it really is control.
It really is a control deck. It's a control deck that, bear in mind, since you have 3 copies of Heartstrongest Horses and 2 copies of the Spectacle, you can actually afford to play some of those before you have Spike in play if you absolutely must. If you know your opponent has key cards in hand and not that many of them, and you want to Heartstrongest Horses them just to get rid of those, go for it. You can do that. The one big piece of advice I would have here is with a lot of the removal that's running around, don't overcommit. You have a low home limit.
Yeah.
And your problems are going to require a lot of characters to confront. So don't try going for DFOs. Use your large power characters to confront your own problems if at all possible, preferably behind a troublemaker. And save some of your AT generators if you've got 2, maybe 3 in play. Don't play more than that.
Yeah. There's Catted Jacks floating around. There's Berry Punch, Belly Flops. There's
main 6 into Party Hard.
Or another retire outlet. Like, Pink has a lot of this.
Yeah. That being said, it is nice to have a deck where basically you can just ignore whatever the opponent is doing on their turn because there's nothing you can do about it anyway. Just make sure that they're adhering to Desert Road and your Luna attacks, and otherwise you don't need to sit there and look at your hand and act like you've got stuff to do. Your main phase is more impactful than most players' full turns, and like full turn cycles.
Yeah, so how important is Desert Road to this deck?
Super important.
Is pretty important.
They're
against Pink.
There's some cards.
Against Pink, it's mandatory. I mean, you may want to include 3 copies of Appaloosa or 3 copies of Desert Road. You know, again, something to look with. Judge your meta as you will. Decide what you want. But there's a core engine. It does work.
It's going to work.
It's going to work.
I know it's going to work.
Well, there's an it's going to work, but there may not be one for long. Depending on.
Yeah. That's about all I have to share on this, though. Chiefs, anything from your experience?
It's fun to play.
Oh,
it is fun to play.
It's fun to play with, not fun to play against.
This problem deck is probably worth mentioning.
That's fair. You might notice the lack of a problem in here that has typically gone in some control before for hand disruption. Family Feud is not here. It was.
Why?
And then I lost to it. So Family Feud was removed in place of Grand Opening. And the reason for this is running 2 bonus problems is a liability because you do not have ways to disrupt the opponent on their turn. So if you end up trying to race for the finish line and start a problem face-off and replace these problems, and you flip into a 2 bonus problem and your opponent did not have those 2 points, you're going to be in a world of hurt. Additionally, Family Feud is great when your opponent has cards in hand. Guess what your opponent doesn't have with this deck?
Cards in hand.
Cards in hand.
Miles.
Yay! Well, I mean, you're also right about that. So, because of that, Grand Opening is more important, especially with Yellow going to be on the rise as well.
Mm-hmm.
Getting back Appaloosas or Desert Roads after they're dismissed by Brian feels really nice.
Yeah. The other really, really important problem is Falling Rock Zone.
Yep. Falling Rock
Is
Zone
that
real good.
persistent?
Yes.
Yeah.
It is. Now, be careful about Falling Rock Zone. If you are expecting your opponent to be playing removal and you've got an Appaloosa in play, Falling Rock Zone actually won't do anything against Spike or Luna. However, it will do some nice things against your AT generators, and if you don't have an Appaloosa in play, or I'm sorry,
4
for your AT generators, and if you don't have an Appaloosa in play, it's a good backup method to protect Luna and Spike.
Yeah. Well, persistent stops any form of leaving. Putting on top of deck with Tempest and Skystar, I'll just frighten that instead.
I mean, sure, but if you have an Appaloosa in play, you can't frighten that friend, and so it has to go back to your hand.
Oh, yes, that's true.
That's what I'm referring to.
Yeah, okay. Because it cannot be frightened. Not
correct. Exactly.
You may choose not to frighten.
Nope. All right, Ara, I think the stage is yours.
The stage is Pinky's.
The stage is Pinky's. It's yet another iteration of Mosh Pit, the gimmick deck that just won't die. I keep a copy built at all times in case of deck emergencies. Originally, it was a targeted counter deck full of 1-cost friends built to answer the Canterlot Knight's Nurse Redheart, which made playing expensive friends a non-starter, and then it started punching way above its apparent weight. The basic idea is that Pinky wants to dance, and in the process, some pony's going to get thrown at some pony else, or possibly just off the dance floor. 7 sets later, the same stupid idea still basically works, and it picked up more than a few less than stupid tricks along the way, while somehow remaining pauper legal. No, it isn't core legal and never will be due to Pinky needing to be the main. But alright, you can run Sky. No, Pinky. There are 2 versions of this. The canonical version that remains pink / the other 5 colors, and a possibly actually good version that goes more pink-yellow. Both versions are packing full racks of Drinking Duo, Food Fight, Belly Flop, and Pinky's Present, as well as Pinky herself, to steal and throw ponies at their former companions. Both versions do run yellow cards like Gummy and Brian, but the actually good version commits to yellow to give it a real chance at playing Brian and adds Discord Sneaky Snack to deal with resources and troublemakers respectively. How does it work? Well, your friends are all cheap, and hopefully their friends are all expensive. One look at Pinky and Belly Flop should be sufficient to put an evil grin on your face, because that's normally a good trade. Ideally, you'd put down a yellow Parasprite, park Pinky behind it, and hold a dance party there, tossing opposing friends off the stage while it slowly nibbles away at their hand. 8 sets later, yellow Parasprite still wins games. So some assorted tips here. Mosh Pit does not win the game on points. It wins the game on fun. That said, it does have the cards to put up a very good fight against even a Tier 1 deck if you get them in the right order. Magical Happy Christmas Time is, of course, a thing. But running into a belly flop every time they try to do something is a thing, too. Second, never don't random. The worst that happens is flipping the Forest Owl, but that's only like 1 power down anyway. On the other hand, you could random into a 5 flip. Third, let the opponent confront single problems first, then start the dance party. Pinky can't very well throw ponies off the stage if there aren't any ponies to throw. This also puts you in a favorable position to win the ensuing face-off.
I do still love this deck. It has so much charm.
So, fun fact, Brian works with random. You get a free Brian and also another flip.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah, triggers.
Hence the rule: never don't random.
Never don't random.
Yeah, don't say, well, I don't want to random because I want Brian. No.
No,
it
random.
works.
Put Brian into play, then flip another card anyway because you
Yes.
flipped a 1.
He's good.
He's very good. And
Also,
if
Party Mare. Can we talk about Party Mare for a second? That card gets deceptively out of control.
I mean, do you know her?
She didn't do anything wrong. No, wait, that's Rainbow Shine. Rainbow Shine didn't do anything wrong. She asks what went wrong.
She
and then
doesn't know what went wrong.
She doesn't know. She also takes magical fizzle pop, very fizzle twist, whatever. I can.
Berry
that
Fizzle
pony.
Twist.
That pony's magical, I don't know what you call them, grenades, bullets. She did take a bullet for Twi.
Orbs. They were glowing orbs.
Hush you. This deck has enough memes. It doesn't need more.
No, it doesn't have enough memes.
Not
I need
enough
some-
memes.
I need some
So-
googly eyes in here somewhere.
So, speaking of yellow Parasprites, turn 1 double yellow Parasprite still wins. It's still
Yes.
good.
It's still a good deck. or
Unfortunately, yellow Parasprite does not count for yellow wreck,
No.
and I am very sad about this.
It totally should.
Well, there is a yellow Parasprite, but it's not yellow Parasprite.
Correct. Can we transform yellow Parasprite into the other Parasprite and then transform? I don't know.
Goodness.
No, probably not.
Can we get a redeem card with yellow
Yellow
Parasprite redeemed?
It's actually just Nightmare Mode.
Exactly.
So, you have 4-cost friends in this deck now.
No, I don't. I have 2 cost friends. It says right there. It says transform 2. Look at all those
That-
pinkies.
That's still more than one.
I see 6 pinkies.
Yeah, look at all those
I
pinkies.
see 9. but,
I
I see 10.
well, I do see 9. I also see one with sunglasses that I missed until just this moment.
What's that?
This is a 48 card deck.
Deal with it.
And Pinky says, "Deal with it."
Deal with it.
So there is a slightly more competitive version of this deck, if we want to see that.
I mean, if we have to.
Party pooper.
Let's take a look at the not deal with it. A few cards different.
Is this the one that you went and messed with?
Yes. It has the one change. It has 2 ofs. It has 3 2 ofs.
No, impossible.
Two ofs.
Yes.
Also more 2-cost friends.
So-
What?
Yeah, the main issue I have with the fun version of this is that if your opponent puts up troublemakers, you're not having much fun. You just sit there doing nothing for the rest of the game. So there is a version of this that throws in Snecky Sneck and just
Ripping me off.
goes all in on the yellow. And it's a bit more. It can handle troublemakers a little bit better.
I contend that this version is not spiritually pure.
You are correct. It is not.
So, have you gotten the absolute nuts draw yet? Turn 1, move Pinky,
Drop
3
3 gummies.
flip.
Regrettably, I have not.
Oh god, that would be hilarious.
That would be so amazing.
It's coming up to Christmas here. You're very close to being able to do that.
I don't know. There's magical Christmas time, and then there's that particular magical Christmas time.
And then the other 2 cards. Oh no, sorry. Then the other 3 cards are 2 yellow parasprites and
No, they're-
a food. Not a food fight.
No, it's just racks of belly flop.
And a belly flop. Like.
So
No.
you just hurl the bellies immediately? Or hurl the gummies immediately, I mean?
Yeah.
On your next turn. Like.
I guess that's true. You have spent all your AT that turn. The dream. Someone's got to live it. It's a fun deck, though.
It's gonna work.
Does things in Pauper.
It's always been fun. Yeah. There was a time where I would just use this against new players. Well, a version of this.
Oh, it's good for that. It's also good to hand to a new player because it's just, okay, look, these are friends, play them.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Now eat them. But I don't want to eat them. Pinkie Pie eats the world.
Pinky wants to dance.
Pinky will dance.
Who are you to say no to Pinkie Pie? She just wants to dance. And I don't remember the lyrics of the song well enough.
She
Can
can
dance
dance
if you
if
want
she
to.
wants to.
She can leave. She can leave her friends behind. No, she can't.
She can leave your friends behind.
Yeah, your
because if
friends
they don't
behind.
dance,
And they don't dance, and they're no friends of thine.
wait.
Do 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 do
Oh.
do.
Too much 80s. Okay.
You know
Let me
that
give-
song
let me give-
isn't
let me
as
give my
safe to
sin.
say that.
I'll be right back. Yell at Spike. Tell him to bring the synth.
My God.
Fun decks though.
Yes. Well, this is the only deck that doesn't actually have any. No, it does have a song. Yes. Okay. Pinky's present.
Yes, that's
I
kind of a
said
good...
it was Deck Discourse the musical.
I was just thinking about her dancing. I forgot she actually did have a song.
Yeah, it's kind of a good song.
Thank goodness people are singing in chat now.
Well, that will about wrap up our discussion on these decks for today.
Are you sure you don't want to sing for another 90 minutes?
I am sure Ara doesn't have his kazoo.
I mean, this isn't a con, so
Right. Join us at cons. We'll sing the whole weekend long.
pretty much.
We would, of course, like to give a big shout out this evening to all of our patrons on Patreon. Thank you so much for your regular support. And if you are watching and are currently not a patron, but you enjoy what we do, please do consider donating, because doing so will give you some awesome rewards like the ability to vote on polls to determine what future videos we produce, a chance to share your own deck creations to be reviewed live, and even the ability to challenge members of Sim or other patrons to feature duels using some wacky rules. If you have comments or questions you'd like to send our way, or if you're just interested in hearing about what we're working on for the future, there are many ways you can stay in contact. We have our Patreon, as mentioned previously, but we also have a Facebook page, facebook.com/commentaryismagic. We're on Twitter at CIM_CCG. You can email us at commentaryismagicteam@gmail.com. And patrons at or above the $5 per month level get access to our Slack channel, where you can chat live with us any day, anytime. Seriously, our sleep schedules are so out of whack, it can't even begin to describe it. If you are looking to watch any of our previous videos, including tournament recordings, you can, of course, find them on our YouTube channel, which is linked in the sidebar. And please make sure to subscribe while you're there so we can actually have a channel URL that makes some amount of sense. With all that said, thank you to each and every one of our viewers, both here now and watching this recording later. We are, as always, Commentary is Magic, and I am, as always, Grandpaws.
Emperor Bugle.
Big cheese.
And I'm too busy dancing.
Do 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 do.
We'll see you all next week, I believe.
Mhm.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.